another episode of Time Out with Derek and Joe. For Joe Azalina, I am Derek and O. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. And today, Joe, this will no teaser, but this will be our last top 5 list for a while. But we are completely rounding. I think we said that in the last episode, rounding out all the positional rankings. But now we're going to finish out with designated hitters, except there aren't too many currently that are even worthy to be on a list. So we're going to go with all-time designated hitters in Major League Baseball, top 5 list, and we're just going to dive right into it. And I will start with my first honorable mention, then we'll go over to Joe's. My first honorable mention is Hal McRae. Hal McRae played from 1968 through, by the way, most of these guys are before Joe and I were even born. So, well, I mean, into baseball, you could say.
Yeah, right.
Hal McRae played from 1968 to 1987. He had 15 years with the Royals, 4 years with Cincinnati, and that was it. McRae recorded 5,778 of his slightly over 8,000 plate appearances at designated hitter. So he was, and that may be difficult for us to determine who is a designated hitter. Should they have had 500 games or half their games? It's kind of up in the air. So there are maybe a couple questionable ones on our list here. But anyway, Hal McRae, he had a 295 average for his career, 358 on base percentage line, 143 home runs, and he was a big part of the Kansas City Royals' success in the late 70s and early 80s. His best season came in 1976 when he hit 332 and on base of 407 to lead the AL in on base percentage and OPS. He finished fourth in AL MVP voting then, and he finished fourth again in 1982 when he led the AL with 133 RBIs and won his only Silver Slugger Award. Joe, do you have anything on Hal McRae? He is my honorable mention, but not on your list.
Right. Real quick. He was drafted by the Reds in the 6th round of the 1965 MLB draft. 1965, Derek. It's a long time ago. So, yeah, he was one of the mainstays with Kansas City, though. And like you said, he had some great numbers between RBIs and hits. Anybody that gets over 2,000 hits should be, talked about when they're long gone. Or even just out of the game, I should say. I think McRae's still living, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say he might be still in baseball. He might be a coach. He might be a coach somewhere.
I thought I did. Yeah, I thought I did read that he was a hitting coach. I think it might have been St. Louis, but not too sure.
Yeah, and so I just say that Hal McRae was a guy I remember as a Kansas City Royal, and just one of those guys that would just get. He was kind of like, and I know I alluded to this before with the Tony Gwynn thing, but he's that type of player. He wasn't a real home run guy. He was a guy that would get you a lot on his average, and a lot of hits, singles, doubles, that sort of thing.
When you
very pivotal, though,
designated hitter, you think power anymore,
right?
But that's not
a lot of my guys.
A couple of these guys on this list were not home run hitters. So,
right, that's a good point. And I think we cannot forget to say that this guy probably hit at the top of the lineup a lot. So even if he was like a 2 guy, he had to get on base, and that's what he did. And baseball has changed a lot these days. You don't steal a lot of bases, but I'm sure he stole, a decent amount of bases as well. So Hal McRae, a very good pick, but yes, he wasn't on my list, Derek. That's true.
Not quite. So your first honorable mention, Joe, not on my list.
Yes, I have one of the best right-handed hitters, I think, in this time period. I'm talking about Chili Davis. He played 7 years with the San Francisco Giants. He played 7 years with the California Angels at that time, and the Minnesota Twins for 2, Kansas City for 1, and Yankees for 2. He played for 19 years in the big leagues. He was a heck of a mainstay. 1,372 runs batted in, 350 home runs, so shy of 400, 2,340 hits, 1,240 runs. He was just a very good hitter. He was drafted by San Francisco in the 11th round of the 1977 MLB draft. And Derek, the only Jamaican-born baseball player, I mean, in a very long time, at least. Yeah, I read that. I was like, wow, Jamaican. I got to put this.
Yeah.
It's not like a bobsled team, but, Chili Davis, the Jamaican. So I don't have much more in Chili Davis, although he wore number 44. I always remember watching him back in the maybe early 90s when I was really young. And he was just one of those guys that you knew was going to get a big hit. He was that type of player. That's why Chili Davis is an honorable mention.
So I did see. So I have a stat for everybody. So Chili Davis, 1,160 of his 2,283 games started. So pretty much half is what he was a designated hitter for. So yeah, he was a designated hitter. Definitely more of an outfielder with the Giants and Angels, but a DH after about 1990 when he was more 30. But yeah, and he closed it out with, I mean, cheating, right? But winning a World Series in 1998 and 1999. So his first, both with the Yankees. So Chili Davis, no, not on my list, but very good hitter he was. I'll move on to my second honorable mention. The only reason I did not have him as number or anywhere in my top 5 is because he didn't technically play a ton of games as a designated hitter, although a ton, whatever. 818 he played out of 2374 in his career. That was Jim Thome. So Jim Thome, he spent a lot of his career at first base. He played over 1,100 games at first base. He also played almost 500 games at third base to kick off his career. So a lot of people don't know. But he still had very solid numbers as a designated hitter in a little over 3,400 plate appearances as a designated hitter. He hit 264 with a 391 on base with 205 home runs and a 922 OPS, which is on base plus slugging, which is third best among DH with at least 500 games at the position. Most of his time at DH came when he was playing for the Chicago White Sox, with his best season coming in the first year when in 2006, he had 42 home runs and 109 RBIs and finished 12th.
Not bad, Derek.
In the AL MVP voting and made the All-Star team. Yeah, you can really see. I think it was pretty much 2006 and on is when he was really diving into being a DH. From 91 to 2006 with Cleveland and the Phillies, he wasn't too much. Obviously, the Phillies are in the National League, don't have a DH. So,
right.
Joe, I know you have Jim Thome on your list, a little bit lower, but let us know your thoughts on Jim Thome. And he was obviously a Philly for a couple of years.
Right. Well, what I remember Jim Thome when he was young, you're right. He played third base because the Indians had a pretty good first baseman. If I'm not, I think they had I wasn't going to say Travis Fryman, but I don't think I'm right there. I forget who was at first then, but Thome did play third. They did have somebody at first base. That's why Thome didn't go to first base right away. But he did play good third base because he was thinner then. So that's why he played third. Derek, I was so ecstatic in 2004 when they opened up Citizens Bank Park. Now, in 2003, I think he came to the Phillies. We were looking at getting a Tom Glavine, and he didn't come. I think we ended up getting Kevin Millwood that year, the starter from Atlanta. Oof. And man, Derek, when we signed Thome, I was like, Oh man, we got somebody that's going to hit home runs, and boy did he ever! He hit some career home runs in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Just a quick story though. Jim Thome was not. He was an awesome guy. Like now, usually you say that. All right, these guys like you don't know them that well. My brother, one of his baseball coaches, used to write for like he used to write within like I don't know, might have been like Bucks County or something. He interviewed him on countless times, and he told me he's like Joe. Jim Thome is a really nice guy. Like he's not fake. Like he's not just a ball player. He's a human being. He's a father. He just always was a good guy. And so I really rooted for him very hard when I heard that. And the home run, of course, like you said, I mean, this is why he's one of the greatest. He's in the Hall of Fame, Derek. Where he's like nobody. He comes to Philadelphia and has a pretty decent run, and then I think he ended up retiring between the White Sox and Orioles. I think it was. But I didn't use my notes, Derek. I just went off because I love Jim Thome, so I got him at number 3. A little biased.
No, that's quite all right. Do you want to jump into your second honorable mention?
Sure. And this is a guy that we all know. He actually had a video game named after him because I think it was called Big Hurt Baseball, if I'm not mistaken. This is Frank Thomas of the Chicago White Sox. Another Hall of Famer, and I think this was kind of where I laid my picks, because how do you not go with the Hall of Fame if you can? Like another masher, another guy that you were afraid to pitch to, even the years that they had like an Ozzie Guillen and a Carlos. Carlos Baerga was on the Indians, but they had guys there that you weren't afraid of, and then you had Frank Thomas, who you were deathly afraid of. He played for the White Sox for 14 years. He played for the A's for 2, the Jays for 2, 19 total, drafted by the White Sox in the first round with a 7th overall pick. Derek, we're talking about a guy that almost had 3,000 hits. He was shy, but he had 2,468, 521 home runs. He joined the home run club. I thought he was going to push Mike Schmidt. I thought he was going to end up hitting over 548, but Mike Schmidt still up there, and Frank Thomas cannot get to that plateau. Derek, he had a 301 average. A 301 average. That's like a guy that doesn't even get out hitting 300. That's amazing for a career. And this is what's floored me. He had 1,494 runs scored and a 974 OPS. I think those numbers speak for themselves. The Big Hurt is absolutely one of the best DH / first basemen ever to play the game. And I don't even know if it's arguable, so don't comment on that. Just listen to it.
Well, which is why I put him as my number 2, Joe. You have my honorable mention. I have number 2.
You backed it up.
Frank Thomas, yes. 1,300 or 1,310 of his 2,277 starts were at DH. Joe said it, the Big Hurt, because he caused a lot of damage to pitchers' ERAs, I guess you could say.
Headaches.
Yes, debuted with the White Sox 1990 until 2005. Then he went to the Athletics, the Blue Jays, 5 All-Star teams, 2 MVP awards, batting champion in 1997, Silver Slugger, 4-time winner. In 19 years of MLB service, Joe, he hit 521 home runs, and like you said, averaged a 301, and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2014. So he's one of those players who could do it all at the plate. Not very fast, obviously, big guy. So but yes, 495 doubles too. Yeah, great hitter.
It's amazing
in his day there. But he was my number 2. Moving back up to my number 5, someone who is not on Joe's list, is Harold Baines.
Oh, yes.
Harold Baines was played 1,643 games, of his 1579 at DH, so well over half. Again, when you think of designated hitters, you think of the power hitters is the first thing that comes to mind. Baines was not efficient in average, but he played 22 seasons for 5 different teams, including the White Sox, the Orioles, Oakland, the Rangers, and the Indians. But he really became the big name for the White Sox. He made 6 All-Star teams, won a Silver Slugger in 1989. He averaged 289. I said he's a little lower than a lot of the guys on this list. 289 is still very good average, though. 384 home runs and 1,628 RBIs. He was just, I'm not entirely sure what this means, but he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2019 by the Today's Game Committee. Any idea what that is?
Probably like a veterans committee.
Yeah,
might be like the veterans committee, maybe.
But Harold Baines, great player. Like I said, really more for the White Sox, but played for 22 years. So he built up some stats, that's for sure, Joe.
Oh, yeah. Harold Baines, I thought about him. I definitely did. And when I saw your list, I was like, well, forgot him. Listen, he was a really good left-handed bat. There's no doubt about it. He was actually, I think you said, drafted by the White Sox, and he wasn't like, I don't know. Like, I feel like you said before, like, it's a good point. I don't think you were born yet. I was 6 years old at this point when he was drafted. I think it was what, was it 80? Oh no, he won the Silver Slugger when I was
in 89. Yeah,
he won in 89. I was, watching baseball, but not knowing what was happening. I was playing t-ball, Derek. Right. Harold Baines is just one of those guys that I feel like. And did he play his whole career with Chicago?
No, 4 different teams. Oh. I said, yeah.
Okay, well,
5 teams.
I will say 5 teams, but I remember him as a White Sox.
Right,
14 I remember him more of a White Sox, and that's a long time. And you know what? Sometimes when you're with a team so long, people forget about you. I'm not going to be honest. I don't think anybody forgot about this guy because he could hit the baseball. Like, he was just that type of a hitter. He just hit the ball. I do a couple things I'll say. How long ago this was. Derek, he came to the plate 9,908 times. To me, that screams durability. He was always in the game. He was always at the park. He also scored 1,299 runs, and that is impressive. And in today's day, the OPS stat, he had 820. So Harold Baines, Derek, he's a Hall of Famer, like you said, probably from the Veterans Committee. He's still in Cooperstown, so let's celebrate him. And that was a good pick on your part. I missed him, so that was good. So Derek, I have the number 5 guy. If you want me to tell you who that is. Mm-hmm. This is a man, Derek, that I used to not like watching. This would be a guy, yes, because one of the teams he played on beat my Phillies in the 1993 World Series.
Okay.
So he was one of those, right? So very fair. No, Paul Molitor was one of the best players of his era. He was such a good hitter. This is the one thing. He played DH. He also played a little bit of first base. He played the outfield. For the Brewers, he played 15 years. A lot of people remember him in Milwaukee. He only played 3 years in Toronto, but Derek, he was surrounded by a cast of John Olerud, Joe Carter, Robbie Alomar, that whole crew, and they were so difficult to beat. And thank you, Mitch Williams, for the loss. So Paul Molitor also played with the Twins for a few years, and he was actually drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals in the 28th round of the 1974 draft. Paul Molitor accumulated 3,319 hits in his career. That's saying something. He knows how to get on base. He would hit some home runs, but he was more of the average type of hitter, as he hit 306. Derek, he hit 5 points higher than Frank Thomas. That really, again, that's like, oh my God, we're talking about great hitters. Like, and again, I marked down that he's a Hall of Famer to this day. 1,782 runs scored, 1,307 RBIs, and he even stole 500 bases, Derek. 504 to be exact. Derek, you probably never saw him play. Maybe you saw tapes of him. What are you thinking though after hearing some of that stuff? Like, I mean, he's just a great player.
Yeah. And it was really someone who, of his 21 seasons, towards the back end is when he was really becoming a DH. He had 791 games at third base, 400 games at second base, 197 at first base, 57 at shortstop, 50 in the outfield, but he had just under 1,200 at DH, over 5,300 plate appearances at designated hitter. He was a 7-time All-Star, World Series MVP, a 4-time Silver Slugger, inducted 2024, like you mentioned. Yeah, 306, phenomenal average. But 234 home runs, that's a little lesser than everyone else on this list. Not really a home run hitter. Another one who is an average guy.
You know what he was, Derek? He was a guy that would just hit contact, and he would work the count on you.
Yeah.
He's that type of batter, and he hit a lot. He hit a lot around the 2 hole. He hit 2. He hit like 6.
He seems like one of those pesky hitters that pitchers would hate. And
Jeff McNeil, he's like Jeff McNeil, fouling off the balls, like you know, that type of deal. But better than Jeff McNeil. That probably isn't a great a great comp, but you know what I'm saying.
I see a lot of these MVP, like 87. He finished 5th in MVP. 88, he was 8th. In 91, he was 11th. 92, 10th. 2nd in 93. He healthy, played a lot.
Oh yeah, always healthy.
But just that I'm looking at the 162 game average. He averaged 200 hits a season. Well, there you go.
That's amazing,
right?
Yeah, that's gonna do.
That'll do it.
Right.
Yep. Well, obviously 3,300 hits. That's a lot. But I didn't even say you have him as your number 5. I have him as my number 4, actually.
Oh, okay.
So we'll move on to the next one, I think, on both of our lists. Your number 4, my number 3, and that is Big Papi Ortiz.
Right.
He is the definition of a designated hitter. He played 2,028 of his 2,275 games that he started at designated hitter. The rest, I assume, were interleague games at first base. Clutch hitter throughout his career. Played for the Twins from 97 to 2002. Then he came over to Boston, where he really became a household name for the most part. Got that Big Papi staple. Made 10 All-Star teams. He led the Red Sox to 3 World Series. Won a Silver Slugger 7 times. He was inducted into the Red Sox Hall of Fame and had his number retired, number 34. And I guess that would 2016. So I assume this year he would probably be on the
I think I saw
right?
it. So I think he's on the
gotta ballot, be a first ballot Hall of Famer, right, Joe? That's what I would think. I mean, he's not gonna be near perfect, but I have to assume
he's gonna get
541 home runs, 286 average, over 17 RBIs, Joe. Someone who on this list who I actually did get to see, and him and Manny Ramirez in the middle of that lineup there were great for a long time. And another guy who seemed to be a very good guy as well, who's someone who was difficult to root against. But Joe, I know you have David Ortiz as number 4. I have him as number 3. Talk a little bit about Big Papi Ortiz.
Yes, he played with the Twins for 6 years. People forget that. He was a Minnesota Twin. I had to remind myself of that. The Red Sox for a booming 14 years. That's why we forget about Minnesota, Derek, because he made you forget about Minnesota, how good he did in Boston in the middle of that order. 2,472 hits. He had almost 600 home runs, again, shy of Mike Schmidt by 7 on the home run total. Even for a guy like him, though, he had 286 as a career average. Like, this is where baseball's gone downhill, I think, a little bit, because these guys all have great numbers average wise. He had almost 290. That's amazing for the type of player he was. One of the guys, I had to write this because I just love saying it, from Santo Domingo, the Dominican Republic. Ortiz was from, again, not an American player. As you hear him talk a while, he was like, oh, well, yeah, my buddy over there, Manny, like, him and Manny were interesting together. Those two. Yeah. You really wouldn't want to see them in the middle of the order too much, right? Guys on base, and they were such a formidable twosome. Derek, I put him ahead of Molitor just because I think here the power plays, right? He hit a lot of home runs. That's the one reason with Molitor, I would have to adjust my list totally if I ended up having Harold Baines on here, because I don't know where I would have put him. But that was why I went with Big Poppy there. And Derek, he was pretty agile for his size. He could field too.
Yeah.
So that's not the, like, he could make some plays. Right, exactly. Now, remember, let's be fair. He played with the heck of a second baseman in Dustin Pedroia for some of his career. The last of Big Poppy. I mean, he had other players that were really good with him, but I mean, that makes a difference when you have guys around you, and they had good pitching back then too. And Curt Schilling was there, and that crew wasn't what the knuckleballer there too. I'm thinking of
Derek Lowe, or no, Tim Wakefield. Tim Wakefield.
Well, they both were good though. Lowe was good. He threw the sinker more. I feel like, and Wakefield had that knuckleball. You know what? Big Poppy, always rooted for him, Derek, especially against those Yankees. Sorry, Yankee fans. So,
Joe, do you know?
Tonight, Derek.
Do you know the trade, the awful trade that he was involved in? Do you know he was a Seattle Mariner at one time, actually?
Oh my gosh. Wasn't it like Juan Gonzalez or something? Was it Juan Gonzalez?
No. We got Russ Davis.
The third baseman.
Upgrade at third base. They need it was when the Mariners were in that, I think it was 96, when they were in the thick of that World Series chase, when they had Edgar and Griffey and the young A-Rod, Randy Johnson. They couldn't get over the hump. So they traded him to upgrade third base, Russ Davis, and the rest is history.
Oh my God.
But yeah.
Future Hall of Famer, Derek.
Big Poppy.
That hurts. Yes.
So yes. Joe, we're jumping down here to we'll round through our top fives with honorable mentions, but we have two guys to talk about left, and he is number 2 on Joe's list, not on my list. I will tell you why, but go ahead, Joe, with your number 2.
Derek, this man, and I can credit my aunt, my godmother, who's a big Yankees fan, and I know I saw him play probably when I was really young, but Mr. October, Reggie Jackson, I couldn't leave him off the list. He's one of the best, probably one of the pure best hitters. Very controversial at times, I know, for stuff he has said in the past. But man, talk about a masher. This guy, he got the name Mr. October because all he did was hit in the big spot in October. And poor Derek Jeter had to be Mr. November. He played for the A's for 10 years. He played for the Angels for 5, and the Yankees for 5, and the Orioles for 1. But Derek, in that 21 years, I know he was big in Oakland, but was there a bigger star at that time probably than Reggie Jackson going to New York? I mean, that's a big.
I don't know if you've ever. I have the DVD set, so if you ever want it, I can give it to you. I don't know if you've ever seen The Bronx. The Bronx is Burning.
No, I never saw that.
I think it was a ESPN special or something. And it was running through when Billy Martin was the coach and Reggie Jackson was the new guy brought on. That was obviously when Steinbrenner was a big part of the franchise. I believe that was when, for those involved in history, that was when the Son of Sam was going on during the serial killer in New
Oh my
York.
God.
It was very good. I would recommend anyone go see it. It was called, what did I say? It was The Bronx is Burning.
Yeah.
It's called.
And you know what? If I had a DVD player, I would love to watch it, but I don't have a DVD
go.
player anymore. But maybe my computer will let me watch it.
Yeah,
well,
you
way,
put it in
we'll
your
see.
computer. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I will say this, and I love how you just use the word history, because today, as most of you know, I work at a school, and I told the kids today about it. I said, history is not all about in a book. It can be just stuff we learn over the years. And so that's a great point, Derek. You just made my point, because the history of those movies, that's what we're talking about here with the Bronx Bombers. So Reggie, I love to hear what you say about Reggie Jackson, but to me, he's an all-time great, and he'll never be in the Hall of Fame, but man, did he have a flair for the dramatic? Can I leave it there? Is that a good way to end it? Like, flair for the dramatic.
Well, so I will tell you, the only reason I did not put him on my list is because was he a designated hitter? I guess it's something. 630 of his over 2,600 starts were at DH. So he was primarily an outfielder. That's why I left him off. But hey, it's hard to tell who's a DH, who's not. So give us a break.
That's true. Right, give us a break.
But he, yep, you mentioned Mr. October, full-time DH. I think they say when he came to the Angels and a little bit for the Yankees. But and then obviously the A's in his last season. But 14-time All-Star, Joe, and he did we say he's in the Hall of Fame? Yeah.
Is he in the Hall of Fame?
He's in the Hall of Fame, yeah.
Okay, Reggie Jackson. Yeah, okay. I was
inducted in 1993.
Okay, yeah. That was a long time ago.
Well, yeah. So a lot of strikeouts, They even have it highlighted. I mean, in yellow on my screen. He had over 2,500 strikeouts in his career, almost 2,600. But yes, very interesting player was Reggie Jackson, and I would recommend Bronx is Burning to anyone who wants to go out and watch that. Lastly, Joe, we both have the same number one, and I think we can talk about why, but I think it's because, well,
one of the best.
He's one of the best hitters. I'm gonna let the stats speak for themselves. A member of my Seattle Mariners. Did I say Edgar Martinez? He is the number one.
He is the number one.
Over 1,400 of his almost 2,000 starts were at designated hitter. 18 seasons for my Seattle Mariners. Spent the first 6 or so playing primarily third base. But after that, he really made the move to designated hitter. In a little over 6,200 plate appearances as DH, he hit .314, on base of .428. He had 243 home runs. His best season was his first full season at DH, 1995, when he won the batting title with a .356 average. And he also had highs of 121 runs, 52 doubles, a .479 on base percentage, yet he only finished third in the AL MVP voting. Finished his career with a .312 stat line, Joe. I still see, I wasn't, a fan of the Mariners then, but when I picture Edgar, I picture that screaming line drive down the left field line and Ken Griffey Jr. rounding third base and sliding into home to get him past the Yankees finally. And but those were the golden years of the Mariners. And he finally, thank goodness, I would have been a little disappointed if he didn't make the Hall of Fame, but he finally just made the Hall of Fame. And I was very happy to see that. But what are your thoughts? He's also your number one for a reason, Joe. So let us know what your thoughts are on Edgar Martinez.
A consummate professional.
Yeah.
He is. like when you looked at Edgar Martinez, and I remember that big series with New York, right? When the Mariners tried to jump over the obstacle of the Yankees.
Yeah, yeah.
All he did that series was get hits. And I mean, I'm not talking about like, oh, nobody on base or top of the like whatever inning it was. No, Edgar Martinez came up at clutch spots, and all he did was hit the baseball. Like that's all he did. And again, it's a theme with these guys. This is what they did the best, is hit the baseball and get many hits. Edgar Martinez, 18 years in the major leagues, 2,247 hits, 309 home runs. Again, he wasn't much of he hit the home run, but he wasn't much of the power guy. A 312 average is unbelievable. And then he scored a lot of runs with 1,219. Of course, he's in the Hall of Fame. And just his Hall of Fame speech, I watched it one day. I'll never forget this. And what I took away from it was how humble he was. He couldn't believe that everybody loved him as much as they did. He's a god in Seattle. Let's be honest. Like they love him.
There's a restaurant in left field named after Edgar Martinez called Edgar's. So
if I'd ever go to Seattle, Derek, I'm eating there.
Yeah.
No, but like him and Tino Martinez, even A-Rod, then Jay Buhner, that group, right? And Griffey, of course. If they could have been just a little bit younger and they would have got like hot at the right time, that they had so much potential to do damage. But Edgar Martinez was that guy that came up and he's like, yes, I'm getting a hit. And the pitchers were like, what do we throw? Right? Like, what do you throw to him? Because he just hit all the time. And if he didn't hit Derek, he would walk. So it would make it even, it could still be bad for the pitchers. But yeah, he was my number one. It wasn't really close. And I will kick myself again because I really think Harold Baines should be on my list. But these are my five and the honorable mentions. Hey, you got him, so at least you covered us. But
I will just say, Joe, how about this? For 2003, it was his 17th season. He was 40 years old, Edgar Martinez, 40. He was 40. An all-star. He hit 294, 24 home runs, and 98 RBIs, and had over 600 plate appearances at 40 years old. Amazing.
Unbelievable.
Probably for a losing
He's an
team
icon.
I don't know why he was still playing, but he was there.
Right.
Yes.
He didn't get a ring, right? He never got a ring. Got a ring.
Well, the Mariners have never made the World Series. Well, he's never won a ring. No. But that'll do it. Let's run off our top five. I'll say mine real quick, Joe. My first honorable mention was Hal McRae. My second honorable mention, Jim Thome. Number 5, Harold Baines. Number 4, Paul Molitor. Number 3, David Ortiz. Number 2, Frank Thomas. And number 1 was Edgar Martinez. Joe.
And my honorable mention number 1 was Chili Davis from, I guess we'll say, the Angels. That's where I remember.
Yeah, don't even bother. It's going to be
the Giants. Yeah. Honorable mention number 2 is Frank Thomas. My number 5 is Paul Molitor. Number 4 was David Ortiz. Number 3 was Jim Thome. Number 2, Reggie Jackson. And number 1, the man, the myth, and the legend, Edgar Martinez.
So that will do it for our, probably, like I said, final top 5 for a while now, but we did a lot of baseball top 5s. So if you missed any of them, please feel free to go out and watch all of them. Mostly current, but I think there were a couple all times as well in there. But feel free to jump back if you missed any of them. Before we get going, Joe, final thoughts.
Well, this one was interesting because I thought, like, when I started to learn about some of these guys and really read about them, I realized that we're not just talking about good players, we're talking about really some great players. So it's cool to like go back in time, even if we weren't really born for most of these guys. It's still cool because maybe some people that were around that enjoyed watching these players will like our show and comment and do all that good stuff that we just talk about, comment, like, and follow. So, me and Derek have talked a few minutes earlier about like what we're going to do going forward. We have some good ideas. Derek came up with some really good things, and we're going to continue to put out shows. And we got a fun one coming up this weekend. So stay tuned to the Facebook group, and stay tuned to Twitter. And yeah, just summer's coming and I'll have more time. So I'm really excited for what we can do in the summer. But Derek, it's always a pleasure. And you know, I'll be seeing you soon. Audience, keep listening to us and watching us, please.
You know the drill, everyone. As always, again, this was our top 5 all-time designated hitters. We hope everyone enjoyed. But you know the drill. We're on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube. That'll help us out immensely. We appreciate it. You can listen to us. If you're listening, we appreciate you listening. Continue to listen while you're out there. All podcast platforms we're available on. Jump out and follow us on Twitter. Jump out and follow us on the Facebook group. And you can always email us, timeoutderekandjoe@gmail.com. As always, everyone, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Stay safe. Take care.